Let's find Nick.
Come on, let's go. Grab a car.
For what?
You don't have a Wonder Woman action figure, do you?
It's not how it works. Come on. There is much in here that is not of the natural world.
Who's that?
Krampus.
What are they doing?
They're playing crayfish slop.
What's going on? Welcome to Minor League Films. Coming here to talk Christian's new favorite movie, Red One. Definitely going to talk about this, Dwayne Johnson. And this is also known as the Oppenheimer Killer, because this was supposed to put Oppenheimer to shame. But we will jump into that. Christian, how you doing?
Oh, doing pretty well, man. Doing pretty well. I just watched a great movie. Can't wait to talk about it.
All right, well, we will get all the thoughts here. Everybody go ahead and hit that sub button, hit that like button. Definitely got some fun stuff to talk about with this one. It's Christmas time, man. You know, once it hits November, that bird, he's got to be angry. He's like, look, man, my sacrifice goes in vain every year because y'all skip right over me into Christmas. I mean, you talk about a Christmas movie. What's this, November 14th? Like, we ain't even on the last week and they dropping Christmas movies.
Yeah, I mean, with this movie, I mean, they have a lot of stuff coming out. And with Wicked, Gladiator, Moana, I mean, they had to get their stuff out before even competing with everything else. So, I mean, I think it was a good move on their part. And, you know, we don't have a Thanksgiving this year for the most part.
Like, we got to get this bullshit in here early before real movies come through. So, definitely, let's get it out before you actually have something to watch. But hey, man, I'm rocking. I got the Rock here. We got Red Ones on the Rock. We got Chris Evans, J.K. Simmons, all here. So let me set the tone for you for this movie. So basically, Red One, Santa Claus. We know him, who is now in action here. They got a buff Santa Claus. There's no more fat guy who don't let he get across the room. He's in shape.
He is in shape. I mean, I didn't notice it until like the very end. I was just like, you know what? He's not fat. He's over here lifting 315, 405 on the bench on a shoulder press. I mean, he's a different kind of Santa Claus.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons, who he looks good in this. I'll give him his credit. He's giving the Rock, a run for his money, and the 500 on the shoulder press. That's his warm up. So he really gets going. I mean, he might bring the warehouse down, some weights flying everywhere, but most definitely here. So Red One, we got Santa Claus here. And he's getting ready. It's Christmas time, preparing his gifts, checking his list, checking it twice, all that good stuff. And we flip out to Chris Evans, who in this movie, what's Chris Evans' name in this movie? Jack O'Malley, Jack the Wolf O'Malley, who when this movie starts out, now they'll give him some character. He's an asshole, straight up. He's a terrible person. Talking about taking candy from a baby, they literally pull that in the beginning of this movie. So we got to get his established quick, and he is a hacker. Now, this is one of the many things he is, but that's what they start out as. He's a hacker, and somebody, we don't know who, pays him to get some information for them to kidnap Santa Claus. So basically, that's what the movie starts out. They pay him, he gets the information. He's good at his job. Like, I don't know why they established in this movie that he's in debt to somebody, because with his skill set, he should be a billionaire. Well, what we talk about, the Invisible Man. He's another one of those guys who has this super skill and doesn't know how to market it. Like, at this point, you should have no money worries.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that he found Santa Claus from like a person who was unknown, know nothing about it. But I mean, how much did you get paid for it, dude? I seen where you live.
Yeah.
What happened?
That's what I'm saying. He is getting entirely ripped off here. But so Chris Evans, he gives the information. Santa Claus gets kidnapped, and of course, the task force known as ELF. I don't remember what it stands for. I just remember extra large force.
I remember the extra large something.
Yeah. So, and that's basically that is the ELF, because he's pretty much the only one we get to see for most of this movie. But yeah, so basically, Santa Claus gets kidnapped. They take Chris Evans. They say, "Hey, this is your fault. You're on the line for this. You're going to help us get him out." And the movie takes place from there. So. Most definitely jumping into this, Christian. You were looking forward to this, and I will get your first impressions of it. You were looking forward to this. We go into watch it. We got some comedy, we got some action, we got, I don't know, maybe a little bit of drama, a little bit of Christmas spirit here. Did you kind of get first impression what you were looking for?
No, because at first I had initially said, I mean, they have J.K. Simmons, they got Lucy Liu, I mean, Chris Evans. They have a lot of they have a stacked cast.
Yeah.
And with that cast, I thought it might be good. I mean, I thought it might be like a little bit of a hidden gem, if you will. But I mean, like at the end of it, after watching this movie, it was a Dwayne Johnson show. I mean, J.K. Simmons, Lucy Liu. I struggle to not give me spoilers, but I felt like they were very underutilized, and I felt like this was The Rock show, and I was afraid of it, and I hoped that it wouldn't happen, and it did happen.
Yeah.
So with that, I was disappointed in it, and everything I was looking forward to for the most part with this movie and hoping that it would be good, it fell short. It was still an entertaining movie. A lot of the fight scenes and everything that came into action, I
Yeah.
really liked it a lot. It was very entertaining, but it was more like fueling the fire that is going out, if you will. So for those reasons, I'm gonna have to back out of this, channeling my inner Mark Cuban. For those reasons, I am out. But I mean, it's still enjoyable.
It
I
still had a little Oppenheimer in there.
Oh, I mean, Oppenheimer. It blew Oppenheimer out of the water.
It
Yeah,
had
exactly.
to. So I will say this. Yeah, this definitely does have a star-studded cast for a movie like this. How they got all these actors in here, I don't know. It must have been a great casting director. But I will start with the guy Chris Evans. Chris Evans in this. The movie starts with him, and he basically you go along for the ride with him and Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Is pretty much their movie. I don't think they really have chemistry in this movie. The Rock is playing it very stoic. I mean, he's The Rock, but we've seen him, crack a smile. We've seen him kind of have a good time, and we've seen him do that a lot. In this movie, he's more, I would say, Fast and Furious Rock, where he has a zero emotion
Very
other than get the job done. It's like, what do you do when you're off? Well, he's never off because that's kind of his personality in this is the mission is my goal, and that's all I do. So Chris Evans in here really gives it some personality. We go through him, and obviously, like I said, he starts off as asshole, like take candy from a baby, literally causing problems for people, stealing people's coffee. He's pulling out all the stops at the beginning of this, but once they get together, he's kind of your straight guy of now I get into this world, and this is a lot here because you obviously have magic. You're dealing with Santa Claus in the North Pole, but they also have mystical creatures in here. They also have this kind of undercover world that like people don't really know about, even though they do stuff well in the daylight, as you've seen in the trailer. Like there's a car and he uses Ant-Man's technology, which Ant-Man should definitely sue for IP here, but he uses his technology and he grows a car, and it's like, well,
Yep.
everybody's standing right here. Whatever mystical world you're trying to hide, it's out there. And also, too, we have the snowman fight that is well in the middle, documented with people on their cell phones. So it's kind of that blend here. But I think Chris Evans, for the most part, he kind of carries this, and I did enjoy him in there. Did you like him in this movie?
I did like him a lot, actually. I mean, I love Chris Evans. I mean, Mr. Jake Wilder himself from Not Another Teen Movie. But I mean, I felt like I really connected with him. I mean, couldn't connect with a lot of characters in this movie, but with him, I mean, I definitely felt it
Yeah.
at some points, especially some points where I was very not overwhelmed, but I mean, I really identified with kind of what he was trying to do. I mean, I really liked him a lot in this movie. I feel like his presence on screen, it's always on point for the most part for Chris Evans. And then also kind of his backstory, because I don't think we had a lot of backstory in a lot of other characters. So, I mean, he was one
Yeah.
that I definitely connected with the most, and I wanted him to succeed and accomplish what he was trying to do, even though in the face of hardship. So, I mean, I liked him a lot. I mean, if it was anybody else besides Chris Evans, if it would have been somebody that wasn't as well known, I guess we'll
Yeah.
say, I wouldn't have connected with him, but he definitely brought it through, and I liked his performance a lot, actually.
Yeah, you get the leading man chops out of him, and they do something in this movie, and I will give this credit. Maybe as we can kind of go into the positives here, they do something in this movie where, of course, Santa Claus works off a list. He has this naughty list, he has this nice list, and of course, Chris Evans, as we see, he's not a good guy, but they make him a more complex character into that, to where The Rock, who's somebody who's managing and going through this, looks like, yeah, I know you. You're naughty list, what they call it, level 4. Like you're very high on the not good, but being around them, you kind of see like, yeah, you know, like I'm balancing things. So I don't do great things all the time, but there's a reason why. I have the short end of the stick here, you know, I'm trying to take care of somebody here. You know, maybe I don't spend because he has a son in the movie. Maybe I don't spend a ton of time here, but there's reasons why I don't do it. I don't want to be a bad influence on him because he's surrounded by other great people. So I just kind of hang out in the shadows. So I think this movie, I don't know if it did that intentionally. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe I have to give them credit for that. But, you know, maybe unintentionally or intentionally, I think they do a good job of giving complex to not only his character, but maybe other people around the world who are like, okay, this is not a good guy, but there's reasons why they play into that. I did like that part about this movie.
I really like that a lot as well. And you make a good point, actually. When it comes down to when they're in a certain space, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but he could have left, but he didn't. And The Rock acknowledging that he's not just a name on the list. Like, he actually is a person who has depth. And I think that the fact that they were able to show that in like in certain circumstances, he will do what is right. He may be not good on paper, but when it comes to him as a person, he definitely shows through, which I really liked.
Yeah, and I say maybe unintentionally because they have we get to see another person on the list, and that is just complete jackass. And it's like, okay, I can't even give you credit for this now because you just threw all that out the window with this 5-minute scene of this other guy. So I will say unintentionally, but together, The Rock and Chris Evans got to team up to save Christmas. So we got to just kind of venture film. We go with them and we get a lot of places. We could kind of start with the kind of pros and kind of things that happen here. For the most part, I do like riding with Chris Evans. I think you pointed out you like the fight scenes, right?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, the fight scenes, the action scenes, I think they're well choreographed. They're pretty cool, and I think they play on certain things well because they're the villain here who I got her name. Her name's Kiernan Shipka. You'll know her from Sabrina. You brought up Sabrina the Teenage Witch, was a really good series. So you've seen her before. So basically, her main goal here, and they don't have her in the movie a lot. They kind of just throw that in there. But basically, I don't want to spoil too much, but she has a reason where she's working against Santa Claus for a certain reason from the past. So without spoiling it too much, but she's kind of our villain here. One thing I'll say, like, I think some of the stuff she can do is cool, but also she finds times to like she does it, but she like it's one of those people where like at the beginning it's like, oh, I can do all this stuff, and then when they really need something, she's like, well, I can't do anything but just be a monster. So it's like, okay, like what was all that cool stuff you did at the beginning? But I think they do a lot of good job to set up action scenes where it is really cool. Now, we brought this up before. If you were to take Chris Evans in this movie and swap him out with Captain America and say, well, it's just Captain America actually, no changes in this movie. We wouldn't question anything because he's straight up an action hero while being a hacker, while being other things, what I think is a little bit ridiculous. But I do think it sets up for like the action scenes are cool.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Evans, he was definitely not a human while watching this. He definitely has some type of like little bit of training and a little bit of something else going on there to prepare him for this onslaught that he's going to come into. But I mean, there was one of the scenes that we talked about very briefly, and it was kind of like, is this Captain America or is this actually like a person that's just coming into this blinded, not knowing what's going to happen, but able to like fend off about 15 individuals? It definitely was one of those things that, I mean, honestly, it kind of made the movie a little bit better for me in a sense. I knew it wasn't real, but like it was kind of like a fun little idea to play with in regards to, is Captain America in this kind of universe? Because the things that he does and the things that he accomplishes, there's no way that this is going to happen. And also, he kind of has that Captain America kind of feel to him, you know? I mean, like the good old American, the guy that's going to do right by anything that comes his way and try to do the right thing, even though he's on the naughty list, if you will. So, I mean, I liked it. I didn't mind it whatsoever. I know some people will mind it, but I mean, for me, the movie experience, I was able to suspend my disbelief a little bit and, have a good time.
Yeah, they have this scene where obviously, like once they find out what Chris Evans can do, and he's good at hacking, he's good at tracking people down. That's kind of where he makes his name. They're like, okay, we gotta go get this guy, and he has a full Captain America elevator scene where there's a guy in front of him, two guys behind him, and you're like, well, okay, well, I guess they got him. No, he's an action hero. They just got to throw that in there
Yeah.
out of nowhere, which is pretty funny. But it's also cool seeing him being the straight guy and going through this world because they introduce, like I said, there's a lot of mystical creatures. They got a polar bear, which you see in the trailer that walks out. And he's like, "What the hell is that?" There's even a cameo from a mystical creature. I'm not gonna name who it is. I have to watch the movie, but they have one to walk out, and he's like, because they tell him, yeah, Lucy Liu, she's kind of the director, and she's kind of the person who keeps things kind of private in this movie. So we have the real world and we got the mystical world. And she's like, well, I keep that kind of private. And he's like, what are you talking about? And we got a mystical character that walks out. And he's like, oh, this is real. So that's kind of cool there. So he kind of plays our straight guy. For the most part, the action scenes, kind of Chris Evans' way to develop his character, more things I like, but there's a lot to this like here. I will give you first. What is one of your cons in this movie?
The biggest con for me is going to be that this is a Dwayne Johnson, J.K. Simmons, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu movie. However, it's more of a Dwayne Johnson movie. I feel like J.K. Simmons didn't have a big part. Chris Evans, he had a huge part, but was he the main character? I don't really think so. Lucy Liu is more of a director kind of a thing where she has some notes in between. But ultimately, the biggest letdown for me was going to be that those characters did not, or those actors and actresses did not have a bigger part in the movie for the most part. And also the timing of the movie, it was just over 2 hours long. I feel like there were some scenes, and Darren, you can comment on this a little bit later, that could have been cut out to, cut it down by about 20 minutes. I feel like this was more of like an hour, 45-minute movie. I definitely caught myself a couple different times looking at my watch to see how much more we have left of this. And also, when the movie ended, was it all worth it? No, I don't think it was worth it really, because 2 hours for a movie is not the longest time. 2 hours and under 2 hours and 10 minutes for the most part. Under that, it's not a long movie, but when a movie isn't executed the best that it can be, it can feel long, and I feel like this one was rather long, even though it's not a very long movie. So those are my biggest gripes with it. Last one I'll say, and this will be quick, is that I didn't understand the main villain's objective until about halfway through the movie. And I don't know if that's going to be a consensus overall, but yeah, I didn't really know what the whole risk was going into this movie until about halfway through. So, those are my critiques about it.
Yeah.
Well, entertaining. Yeah.
And those are fair. Definitely here the time. I think the runtime is 2 hours. This probably includes credits, but 2 hours and 18 minutes total, which is way too long. Yeah, way too long for this. If that is true, but it's at least 2 hours. Way too long for this because by the time we get in the middle of the movie, I could feel it. And like I said, there are certain scenes and they have some cool sets. Like Krampus, he makes a cameo in this movie. And he has his whole like world and certain things where they have to go there, and you kind of get to see like his layout, and they do a lot with, like I said, the mystical creatures in here. But when you start to think about it, they just go there to have the show off some cool characters and stuff like that. And you're like, this doesn't add much really to the movie. They go there for a reason, but later on, it's like that's something you could have cut. I feel like there's a lot in here where you could have cut. These scenes are a little long and not necessarily long. Starting with my concept you didn't touch on. There's a lot of stuff they don't really explain in this movie or have reason for. One of the big things you see it in the trailer, The Rock, in the way he's able to. We talked about he can change his size a certain time. He can do Ant-Man type things. He can change his size. He can grow cars and just make them work. And I'm like, okay, like it's a toy car. Where'd the gas come from? Like, where's electricity? Like all these vehicles and stuff you could do. They don't really explain it. Obviously creatures in here have certain like powers and they are able to do stuff, and then like later they just don't. It was like the witch, she has all these powers, all this array of stuff, and it's like, yeah, you want to use some of that when I actually need it? Nope, I'm good. Okay, well, I guess we'll just be defeated very easily. They do some of that. And also too, one of my biggest gripes is though, we have this elf organization, like, and Lucy Liu also, these two like partnership, like when they go after Chris Evans, oh, it's SWAT team, badass dudes coming out. They have the machines and everything. And like, once we need something done, it's like, hey, Rock, Chris Evans, you on your own. Like, no backup. this little elf contingent that The Rock has, they get beat up in about 5 minutes according to this movie. Like they don't serve any purpose. Of like, oh, I gotta go save my own team later. It's like, all right, man, what do you have this organization for? You need to go. It's like all these villains we get with henchmen, where it's like, okay,
Oh,
where are
yeah.
you going coming for henchmen? These dudes are worthless. Like this, the heroes in this movie were their extras are worthless. But I would say that. But for the most part, yeah, there's a lot of cons here, but overall, I would say if you're watching it on TV or you're in that level of setting, I think it's pretty entertaining. I think if we would have watched it together, I mean, we saw it at the same time, a different location. Like we watched it together, I feel like we would have had a good time because there's definitely some nonsense in this movie that we would have laughed at. So I think it's enjoyable, and I think there's enough moments there. Do I think
Yeah.
it's a good movie? No, I do not. Obviously, it's tracking now 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. I probably would have it maybe a little higher than that, but I probably wouldn't give it above the 40s on their scale. But for me, going in, seeing the movie, I don't know if it's something I necessarily pay for. We can hop into ratings in a minute here. But overall, I think like you, certain performances, J.K. Simmons is good in here. He just doesn't get enough time. Lucy Liu, I think she maybe has too. She's kind of, for me, she's phoning it in to where it's like they walk in when Santa Claus first gets kidnapped, and it's like yeah, Red's missing. Who got him? Where'd he go? And it's like, hey, Lucy, like I know you can act. Like you're
Yeah.
like, are you invested? Or are you just here for a paycheck? I don't know, but Chris Evans is good. I think he's fun. I think it just it
Yep.
goes along just a little too long, and two, they don't flesh out enough things in this movie for me. So that's probably my cons. You got any more cons? We can hop into ratings if you want to.
I mean, no, I'm really glad that you brought up Lucy Liu's performance because I mean, it wasn't the Lucy Liu that I know. It felt like
Yeah,
she was kind of dialing in, clocking in, spitting out a couple different lines, but I mean, I didn't get that like angst from her. Like she was really concerned. So I mean, I noticed it, and I don't
yeah,
know if she again is just dialing in for a paycheck at this point. But I mean, like I'm upset about it because I know she's a great actress and I know
yeah,
she could do very well. And seeing this movie, I was kind of like, I mean, it's almost like that's one of the reasons why I didn't like it so much, or well, that I was kind of like not keen on it, if you
yeah.
will, because I could tell that she wasn't involved, and that was one of the actresses I was looking forward to the most. And for her to not be into it, I mean, it was kind of disappointing. So I'm glad you bring that up. And now we can go ahead and jump into ratings, I think.
Yeah, well, you can lead off. Where would you rate this movie?
Oh gosh, I would say 6.2,
Okay.
maybe even 5.2. 5.2 is what I'm going to go with out of 10.
Okay, so 502 out of 10. Here we usually do it our ratings on kind of like how much value you get. For me, I would say for me it's probably a minor league film, which for us is more so bad. Um, Run of the mill is kind of your average. So run of the mill, I mean, minor league is going to be just below that. It's probably your bad movie. I don't think this movie is good. I have plenty of problems with it. I felt like one is too long. It lacks a little bit of characters. Besides Chris Evans, everyone else is really kind of playing it dry. And like I said, there's a lot that goes unexplained. So I would probably put it as it's a minor league for me, uh, for us, because I just would say it's probably not that great. Like I said, if you watch it at home and you turn it on, and one of the gripes too is one of the best scenes in this movie, something that we talked about, they should have put very first, is the last scene. And that's the scene that really gets me in time for like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit like, okay, it's Christmas time, a little happy, like that cheer starts to come on. And I guess it's not a bad thing because it left me with a little bit of that Christmas cheer walking out. But like I said, you'll say that for the end. You didn't tortured me for 2 hours now. And
Yeah,
then you spring this over. I'm like, hell with y'all. So minor league for me.
that makes sense. So are you saying that it's not worth the price of admission?
Yeah, I'd say I wouldn't pay for this. I think the best setting is where it should have been all along on TV, on Prime. You got the family around, or you have some friends over, and you can put something on. You don't have to pay close attention to it. But if you want to
Yeah.
like play some games, have a movie in the background, you'll catch some cool fight scenes. I think some of the CG is done well in here. Some of the action scenes look okay. I mean, they got The Rock doing more than we know he can do, but it's like, all right, he looks cool here. And obviously get your action scenes. Chris Evans, like you said, we know he plays Captain America. He's good at action. Even Lucy Liu there at the end when she wants to pulls out some angler. It's like, okay, you did play Charlie's Angels. You should have brought that more in the movie and maybe we would have liked it. So I'd say there is not worth paying for. And I'd say it's just probably below average.
I would agree. I would definitely agree. I was just saying, bacon apple pie. Do something in the background. Have this going on. Good.
There you go. Get your cookies and your milk ready for Santa. That is our review of Red One. So definitely check it out. We'll have more coming for you. Don't forget, we do the Daily Monitor Show every day. So that'll cover all your movie news. Get your information for that. Like you said, we talked about it yesterday when The Rock said this is gonna go toe to toe with Oppenheimer. Maybe not quite there for us, but hey, he tried, and we're here to talk about it. So make sure you do that. Make sure you sub to the channel, like that video. If you did see the movie, get your comments below, or if you haven't, let us know if you will check it out. Definitely, I'd say catch it on TV, but hey, check it out. It's only our opinion. Give your own. Christian, if people want to find you on the daily, get your movie reviews, get your news reactions, all that good stuff, where can they find you at?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go ahead and find me on Instagram. That's my main source of content going on. You can find me at the number 2, Our Commitment. And also, you can find me on YouTube, as well as TikTok. I'm going to be posting on there a lot more, so would love to hear your guys' comments, feedbacks, and also things that you guys are looking forward to seeing. So feel free to, obviously give a follow, but also a comment. I look forward to seeing your guys' opinions.
There you go. Go in there and give him some feedback. If you want to find me, I'm CityBoy Quentin on Twitter, Flyknit J on Instagram. But let me not be selfish. You want to find us, me, Scotty, Christian, when he joins us, all the good content. I'll be here at Minor League Films on YouTube. If you're here, go ahead and hit the sub button. Minor League Films on Instagram and on TikTok, CoronaComics_MLF, which is for Minor League Films. That will be down in the bio. So make sure you do that. Go out, see Red One, or see something else. A lot of good movies out. Get back to us. We'll be back tomorrow to talk some more movie news. So all that good stuff. We will catch you next time.